What you're about to do. What's happening tonight?
Right. A shiur literally translates as a measurement, and it is the word used to describe a lecture, because a lecture you've got to measure how long you're going to talk for and what you are going to say. But it is used to describe a talk. So you could have a shiur in the Talmud, which would be a very deeply engrossed sort of a shiur lecture where people would sit there with their Talmuds and they would engross and they would go through it and they would discuss it. You can have a more, as I like to call it, laid back and relaxed shiur where we just...
What we'd call in layman's term a lesson.
A lesson where we go and we talk about various different issues in the Torah, the Talmud. This week there has been a request for me to talk about the siddur, the order of the prayers in the morning, because as we know in Judaism, nothing is there for no reason. Everything has a reason, everything has a purpose, and therefore people would like to know the order of why the prayers are the way they are, why particular psalms were chosen to be in the morning prayers. So that's what I'm going to talk about.
How does it fit into the work of a rabbi?
Well, I think a rabbi's job, part of his job, is to teach his community the Torah. That I think is his main role, is to impart upon them words of wisdom. Not sure I can do that necessarily, but I can certainly try, and to make them aware of the laws. Even a rabbi doesn't necessarily know everything. Nobody pretends they do, but we can all learn on the job. And as I say, very important, and I'm going to start off by saying this, that I'm very grateful for the people who come and make me have a shiur, because it means that I have to prepare it, spend a lot of time, especially the topics people choose me to obviously talk about are not some things necessarily that I'm familiar with. So I've got to go away and learn new things. So I get a lot out of it too. I learn a lot. And when you give something over, you talk it over, you know it better, don't you? You get it more clear in your head, you understand it better, and you remember it better. So I'm always grateful for the opportunity to give a shiur, because it teaches me a great deal as well. There is in Ethics of the Fathers, there is a Mishnah which says that you can learn a lot from your teachers, and you can learn even more from your friends, but you learn even more from your pupils. Why? Because when you're talking and discussing things and learning things, you know and appreciate things that you couldn't have even dreamed of. They push the pupils or congregants, they push you further, push you to know things and to understand things and explain things, and you become much more knowledgeable as a result.
Thank you very much.
Right. Has your husband got lost?
I think he was being the doorman, but he thought another car was coming.
Okay, well it's 8:10, so I think we should make a start.
I'll tell him to come upstairs.
Okay. Don't want him to miss out, he is hosting. So just before we start, as I've mentioned, there's been a request. We are talking about davening. So if those of you who have brought a siddur, good. If not, if you want to use a siddur, because the way I want to do this year is I want to give a general introduction to prayer, and then I want to go through the siddur and talk about the specifics, the particulars of the prayers, the psalms that are used, why they are used, and what order they come in. So those of you who want to take a Singer's Daily Prayer Book, feel free. I've brought a few with me. You want one? Obviously, I'll have to have one, and then we can go through it together. Now, if you remember, for Rosh Hashanah Yom Kippur, I produced these Torah sheets. Do you remember? I put them on everyone's seat, which were actually typed up by my fiancée, Erica, who was just my girlfriend then. I dictated them over the internet, and she repeated them. She wrote them down, and these are an introduction to prayer. So I brought a few copies that were obviously collected off of the seats, and people can take them home afterwards and just re-familiarise themselves with the ideas and fundamentals of prayer. Now I want to give a little introduction before we go through the siddur. Prayer in the Talmud, Tefillah, is referred to as avodah shebelev. It is the work of the heart. Now, there could be many connotations. What it means, Tefillah, is the work of the heart. But the way I understand Tefillah, prayer is the work of the heart, is emotions. Obviously, we know the heart is where the emotions are. When you typify emotions and feelings, you talk about the heart. He's got a kind heart. That's where the hub of emotions and feelings come from, the heart. So I believe that when it says prayer is the work of the heart, it means you should put in passion and feeling. It's not just good enough to do lip service and just to rattle off the words. You've got to try and bring the words to life. Give them meaning, understand them, make them feel that you are part of these words. Make it feel that you are saying these because you believe in it. You want to say these prayers, not just because that's what the rabbi said. When you are praying, please, you are the one who gives man knowledge. Give me knowledge. And when you're asking to give forgiveness, you should be thinking, I want forgiveness. This is like me saying it. And when we say thanksgiving, like modim, thank you, we should all think to ourselves, yes, I am grateful to God for all the... I've said many times, people are so quick to complain when things don't go their way. We all know that. But how many people are quick to thank when things do go their way? Things that have happened, oh, thank you, God. And as we've said, you're all parents here. How many times is it in your lives when your kids have come up and have appreciated something that you've given them? You've given them something, you're more likely to do more for them, am I right? Because you feel appreciated. You think, they made me feel good, they gave me thanks. How many times have a parent said, now say thank you or say please? How many times have you said that as parents? Countless of times. And the same as with God. He wants us to say, please can I have? That's the idea of prayer. And then he wants us to be grateful and to show appreciation that he has given us our gifts. That's why I said, like Rosh Hashanah, Yom Kippur, we spend the whole day davening for life and begging for things for the coming year. But we also need to say, thank you for last year. We know, obviously, by the fact that we're still alive, that last year we were granted life. So on and so forth. We were granted food and money and clothes. We know all that because we are here still. So we need to be grateful. Nobody, if you like, has a right to live. Nobody has a right to have money or a right to have clothes necessarily. We have to ask. Everything is a gift from God. Which I keep saying to my fiancée, that she is my gift. In fact, they say that a person's wife is the biggest gift God can give them. As I'm sure I'm about to find out. But also they say you've got to get it right, the right decision, which hopefully I have made. Get the right wife, can help you and can give you bliss all your days. I can see some of the men giving me some smirks here. Maybe they know other things. But still, one has got to be grateful for all the good that one has. And as we said many times, that things that appear bad for us, yes, there could be terrible tragedies on the face of it. We don't know why they happen. There could be good reasons. Who knows? We know sometimes that if one looks 5, 6, 7 years later, things have turned out differently. We can see how it worked better. Sometimes people get made redundant, or they don't get a job, and they're all upset and depressed. And then, a bit further down the line, they get an even better job, or they get a job that they like so much more, or the hours are better, or it makes them feel better about themselves. So sometimes you can't see things, but later on, they develop. Like now, as I keep telling my fiancé, all the times you get depressed or you're not married and this girl's turned you down and this one's got disengaged, you know how it is. But now I can say, oh, it was all for the good. I'm glad I didn't go out with any of those because I believe I've got so much better now. I hope. So that is what I say is a general introduction. So you've got to have feeling and passion. Don't just stand there rattling off the words. You've got to feel it. Jews, people here in this room have asked me, why do Jewish people shackle? Right? When you see Orthodox people davening, they're going like this, aren't they? They're sort of going like this and they're putting their... And people say, why do they do that? And the answer is because they're trying to display passion. Trying to get engrossed in it and believe in it and really get carried away. And they're trying to really put all their 248 limbs or however many it is into the prayer. You've got to really try and engross yourself. In fact, we say every Shabbos morning, the special prayer for Shabbos morning in Nishmas, Kol atzmosai tomarno, Hashem michomecho, all my bones say, God who is like you. Not just I say, all my bones. Every bone, every sinew, every muscle in my body has got to be used when we're praying. Not just to sit there and just to let our minds glaze over it, but to really get involved, feel it passionately. I want these things, I'm thanking God for these things. As we see, prayer is made up of many different facets. We've said also that the word prayer in Hebrew, Tefillah, literally translates as to judge. We have the word va'oivenu pelilim, our enemies judge us. Pelilim, Tefillah, is an idea of judging. What does it mean, judging? We are judging ourselves by what we say. We say, God gives life. Do you believe it? Do you live by those statements? God, give me this. Do you believe God can give it you? These are how we are judging ourselves by what we say. Do we really believe it? In fact, the rabbis tell us why this happens so many times. Person comes into shul. I'm going to have the best davening ever. I'm going to come in, I'm going to get really ingratiated. And then they start daydreaming, they're thinking about football, and then, whoops, prayers are finished and they've been on autopilot. Their mouths have been jabbling off and they wake up. Oh, I've missed the whole prayers. I was so excited and I was just daydreaming. It happens so many times. People end up daydreaming and forget it. And the rabbis tell us that is God testing us. How much do you really want what you're praying for? If somebody's got no money, if somebody's destitute, if he would pray, I can assure you, he would pay properly. He will put all his heart and soul. Am I right? Because he needs it. He's got no money. He's got nothing else to rely on but the prayer. He'll be begging, he'll be screaming, he won't daydream because he really needs it. He really wants it. He really means it. So God is testing us by making us daydream a lot. How much are you going to fight these daydreaming feelings? How much are you going to say, no, not going to think about these things. I want to get engrossed in the prayer. Because it's so important. The Gemara says that prayer is devorim she'omdim berumo shel olam. Prayer is the things that are at the top of the world. We know in Pirkei Avos say, Al shlosha devorim ha'olam omed, on 3 pillars the world stands. Torah, Tefillah, Ma'asim Tovim. One of them is Torah, obviously, and Tefillah. Prayer. Prayer is vitally important, not just for God, but for ourselves. To ask for things, to beg for things, to try and connect. Try and feel that we are connected in some way to God. I've said this many, many times. I've used the example of the Borg in Star Trek. The Borg, they were all separate entities, but they were all connected to the same computer. Any sci-fi fans here? Right, I've said this many times, yes. They were all connected, they felt the same, they did the same, they felt the... And that's how Jews should be. Jews, when we say Jewish people are one, ki ish echad b'lev echad, there should be one, they should feel as one. That's what it means. We should be like the Borg. We're separate, but we're all connected to the same central computer. We need to try and... Davening is like charging, like plugging your phone into the charging machine. That's what davening is. We are charging our batteries. Or like when you have to plug your sat-navs into the computer to get the latest roads and the latest extras that have been added on, because otherwise your sat-nav will go out of date. That is what you are doing with prayer. You are tuning in, you are connecting yourself to the central computer, if you like, that is God. And you can gain, by connecting yourself through prayer, you can gain lots of gifts showered upon you through the computer connection. But if you're not connected, you can't get anything. And as we know from the computer age, sometimes you have a bad connection. Oh, the internet's slow and connection is not good, or if the USB port is slightly damaged and you have to fiddle about with it, you don't get such a perfect connection. Right? How many times when I plug my phone to the computer it goes, not supported with this device? Maybe some of you are not so... Yeah, how many times have you had that? You plug your iPhone and it says, this does not support us. So rubbish, take it out, put it back in again, and it's fine. 5 minutes later, boom, this is not supported with this device. That is what prayer is. We are plugging ourselves in, but we've got to stay plugged in. It's all very well to plug yourself in and leave it. No, you won't charge automatically. You've got to try and the whole time be alert. Otherwise, this charger is not supported by this device. So we can use practical examples to try and support what I'm trying to say.
Rabbi,
yes.
Can I ask, Rosh Hashanah, the Amida, which is a very long Amida, there are page after page which you don't pray or read during the year. And I always find that I'm halfway through and we've moved on. Yes. What is right? I mean, should you continue the prayer?
Yes.
How do you do it?
Well, I agree with you. I was told when it comes to Rosh Hashanah, we must be finished by time X. Now, if you count up all the words that we say and divide them by the amount of time that is allotted, you will find that you're gabbling them off quite quickly, which you are. So I have to try and prioritise which bits you spend more time on. But I agree with you. We should really... That's why if you go to one of these really orthodox shuls, they don't finish till 3:30 because they spend the time, they go through it. But if we have started the Shemona Esrei, you should still continue your private Shemona Esrei. And I tell everybody when it comes to Rosh Hashanah, if you don't prepare... If you fail to prepare, you prepare to fail. If you don't before, I do it as well myself. And I've gone through it and every year I take my art scroll machzor, I refresh myself with the davening, I refresh myself with the English translation, I look through some of the commentaries, because otherwise it's too much to do at the time. So a bit of practice to go through so you know what's going on. But I agree with you. We should spend more time on it. That's the whole point. Like Yom Kippur, we've got the whole day. There's no rush. But still want to try and fit everything in because we need a break for an hour and a half. But that's just my rants going on. But yes, one should continue and finish one's own private prayer.
Could one do that at home before?
No, once one started, one should try and go through the whole prayer.
Sequence.
Yes, but one can continue in English. We have said prayer can be said in English. Prayer can be said in any language. Why? Just to prove it's not the words that count. It's the heart. It's the feeling. That's what prayer is. If you're gabbling off words you don't understand, yes, it has some sort of advantage. You're saying Hebrew words and praises. But if you say it in the language you understand, it'll be so much better because you're feeling it, you're understanding it, you're connecting with it. So that is my introduction to prayer. So to recap, prayer is the work of the heart, it's passion, it's love. Of course, love as well comes from the heart. We've got to love prayer, love God. It's like we are plugging ourselves, our USB drives, into the computer to gain our charging for the day. And we've got to make sure that connection stays. It's like a loose connection. If we don't hold it there the whole time, it will fall off. To make sure we are continually connected to the main computer, the central hub, that is God. So now I'm going to go and talk more specifically about the prayers. So, prayers, as you will notice, the daily Shacharis is split up into sections. Okay? Now, we have the first bit. That's the blessings that we say, the blessings in the morning, followed by the sacrifices. First of all, I'm just going to say what the sections are, and then we will come back and talk about them. So the first sections, so now if we're looking in our green prayer books, we're talking about page 16, or you start with the Birchas HaTorah, so we're talking about page 11, page 12. From page 12, you've got the morning blessings. Now, then we go on to the sacrifices. We say over the words of the sacrifices, pages 26, 28. And then we finish with a Kaddish on page 34. Now, as a rule, every time we say a Kaddish, we have finished a section of prayer. If you like, Kaddish is the border mark between the sections. So we say the Birchas HaShachar, the blessings, followed by the sacrifices, then we say Kaddish. Kaddish is like end of section 1. And now it's adverts. That's because we've got ITV. And then we come back and we say Baruch She'amar, which is praises. The Pesukei is Zimra, which literally translates as verses of singing, because they're meant to be sung joyously. And then we finish at the end of Yishtabach with Kaddish. End of section 2. Adverts again. Then we start the next section, which is called the Birchas Kriyas Shema. We say the blessings, then we say Kriyas Shema, then we say Shmona Esrei, then we say Tachnun, and then we say Kaddish again, because that's the end of that section. So the Kaddish splits up the sections. Then we say Ashrei Uvolat Zion, Kaddish again, because we are splitting up the prayer into sections. So you understand? The Kaddish, if you like, is the border mark. That's the first. Every time we say Kaddish, it splits. Look at laning. We lane, then we say Kaddish, and then we say the Mafti. Why do we say Kaddish? Because the Kaddish is to make a split between the liyas that are in the Torah that were meant to be there, and the Mafti, which is something secondary. So we make a gap. You say this, the laning, you finish it all. Oh, we finish the section of laning, say a Kaddish. Finish that section, start the Haftorah, do all that, finish that section. So Kaddish is a splitting thing. That's the first thing to note. Kaddish is a border mark.
Rabbi, Rabbonim Kaddish.
Yes.
What is Rabbonim Kaddish in
Okay.
respect of the ordinary?
Right. Rabbanon Kaddish is a Kaddish for me. And it can be a Kaddish for you also. It's called the Rabbi's Kaddish because if you look at the translation of the big, long, massive section that people don't like to read, so if we look on the English on page 35, it says, to Israel, to teachers, their disciples, that's all you, their disciples, and to all who engage in the study of Torah, here or elsewhere, may they come to them peace, great peace, kindness, grace, compassion, long life, ample sustenance, deliverance from their Father in heaven. So this is a specific extra for people who study the Torah and people who listen to Torah, like all of us. So every time we say Rabbi's Kaddish, we are praying specifically for us. Why do we say it then? We say it after a bit of rabbinic law. So if you look at the section before that, we are reading from the Mishnah, which is rabbinic law. The rabbis made the Mishnah. Rabbi Shmuel Omer is Rabbi Shmuel, he was a rabbi, he said. So if we're going to say a Kaddish, we should say the rabbi's Kaddish as a blessing to them. Which is why I don't get annoyed, but in Shabbos morning, we never, people say the Kaddish at the end of Aleinu. We should also be saying the Rabbanon's Kaddish, because that is an extra specific blessing for all of us. But because people, whatever reason it might be, people don't like to say it because it's quite tough, we should really be saying it. If you look in the Talmud, that Kaddish, that blessing is very, very powerful. Whatever that means, and we should really say that Kaddish. It's a special Kaddish for people who learn an extra bit, and we should, if somebody volunteers anyway, for whatever, to say that specific Kaddish. In the Shabbos morning we say it after, when we say before Aleinu, that's the Rabbi's Kaddish. We should say that. In fact, it would be better to say that Kaddish and not the one after Aleinu. But we'll